Howdy. My name is Mick Hanna. I work with ERCOT. Currently, I'm at the 2018 conf, and like everybody else here, I'm having a good time. But being from ERCOT at the 2018 conf in Orlando at Disney, everybody's like, "Oh, cool! You work for Epcot," and no, I don't. I work for ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And so I know this now. In the future, I will fully spell out my company name to avoid that. But currently, I meet new people like, "Oh, you work for Epcot, it must be amazing." And then I say no, and it's like this awkward shrug, and we kind of move on. But I work for the IT support services for the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And what we do is we control the power grid. We make sure that the lights don't go out, no rolling blackouts, that kind of thing. We also run the financial markets, and then we also provide the clearinghouse for retail customer choice, which means if you have electric company A or B and you want to switch to electric company C or D, the power still comes over the same lines, the bill just comes from a different person. And so we make that happen as well. So our Splunk journey kind of goes like this. We initially got a 50 gig license, and with that license, we started out with our web team and kind of web services, and they kind of did the proxy logs, web server logs, that kind of thing. And that was around 2014. And my boss was like, "Hey, we have this new Splunk product." It wasn't my group, it was a group kind of tangentially parallel to me. But I was like, "All right, cool. I'm interested. This sounds neat." And they were like, "Okay, well, do you want to go to comp?" I'm like, "Comp sounds cool." And they're like, "It's in Vegas." I'm like, "I'm a Vegas guy. I'm going to comp." So I go to Vegas, and it was amazing. I go there, and I learned all this stuff. I'm like, this is great. And at that time, we had a legacy monitoring system that was developed in-house by a guy because our enterprise system wasn't meeting our needs, so he just made his own. And it was fantastic, did everything we wanted. And then, like so many things, he moved on. So now we have this unsupported technology that we don't know anything about, and it was kind of a ticking time bomb. So we're like, all right, so how can we get off of this legacy monitoring tool and into something that is supported by a vendor and that kind of thing? And Splunk was kind of that answer. And so I went to Comp, and I was like, I saw these sessions, and one important one was one on DB Connect, and all DB Connect is essentially pulling in database information into Splunk. I'll go into that more later, but it was one of those things like, all right, well, let me forklift our old system into a new system and find out what we can do. And Splunk was kind of the idea. So I went to Comp. I was like, this is perfect. We'll do it. I went real quick, just spoiler. I went back. I was like, cool. I saw these cool things at Comp. Let me try it out. I just got a user. I'm logging in, and I sucked. I didn't know anything. I'm like, everything they did at Comp, I can't do. I'm not very good at this. Whatever. And so I was like, well, I'll figure it out. And we did. But so we started with DB Connect. And part of the reason why we started with DB Connect is because we run a lot of legacy systems. Our legacy systems can't handle additional logging. Like if you beef up your logging, the performance goes poorly in a PC way. It goes poorly. And so what was developed over time though were all these audit tables in the database. So the database has all these information that we need, and a lot of our alerts were keying off these database queries. And so we were like, all right, go in, do this query, trigger an alert, whatever. And so a lot of our alerts just went directly from our old legacy tool to our new tool almost immediately. So if you're not familiar with DB Connect, I would say check it out because it's pretty easy to set up. You get it from Splunk base, you add your drivers, Oracle, SQL Server, whatever. You do your identity, so that way you got your username, your password, everything's secure. You add your connections, because we probably have 15 databases that we connect to through our DB Connect instance. So it's one of those things where I have heard that there have been people with issues with DB Connect. We've never had that, but apparently others have. So I guess it may vary how well it works for you or not. One of the things we also had in our legacy system was this ability to create these visualizations on the fly. And we were like, all right, cool. Well, we'll move that to like Cognos or some BI tool. And the users were like, no, we want to be able to do it like today. And if we go to Cognos, it's like a 3-month release cycle. I'm like, I get it. So what DB Connect allows you to do, so first off, any query data that you just pull in real time doesn't go against your license. So that's fantastic. But if you do query data like on a schedule and you index that data, that does go against your license. And so a lot of these dashboards were taking in this data from these queries that were going every 5 minutes or whatever, and it would be like, hey, what's the trend every 5 minutes on that data, and it would spit out a dashboard. And so that was really cool. We're like, all right, cool. I was like, I can do this with Splunk. All right, let's do it. And so it was pretty fantastic. But the problem is one, like, I'm not that smart, but two, like, I don't have that much time. So it was kind of hard, like, how are we going to do this? Like, I know you can. I went to conf. I saw the stuff. You can do it. Let's do it. But it was hard. So, you know, what am I using? Interns. Like, young guys, it's the future. And they're way smarter than I am. And I'm like, let's bring it. Let's do it. And so, like, initially, so that dashboarding thing I was talking about, we had, like, I say 50 plus, but we had, like, almost close to 100 dashboards. And I was telling the guy, all right, so, and the guy came in as an intern, young guy. He's like, hey, I was like, so do you know anything about like databases? He's like, not really. You ever use SQL? He's like, no. I'm like, well, welcome to the party. We're about to go just throw you in there, and we did. But let's see. Yeah, so initially though, when we first got our first interns, we were like, hey, make this dashboard, make that dashboard. And it was okay because they would come in, we'd give them kind of an overview of our data and that kind of thing. And then they would be like, hey, here's a dashboard that they kind of know something about. And we're like, oh, that's cool. The only thing we really got out of that was that I now have a reference to go see, oh, how did you do that? Go look at the search. Now I know how to do that. Because, again, I don't have time to do Splunk as much as I want, but they do. And so I would look at what they did, and it was okay, but we weren't really getting a whole lot of data out of that. So as we kind of move forward, we're like, how can we really kind of leverage these interns into something that's valuable, that we actually get, like, interns aren't a net loss. We're not just paying them money to come in and, expose us to that, hey, the nonprofit quasi-government energy industry is amazing, because it's not. But, so what we got was, how do we get these interns to actually leverage stuff? And so I'll say this now, in the 3 months that I have interns, I get way more done in that 3 months than I do in the 9 months when I don't. Because my Splunk guy is like 50% Splunk, if that, probably less than that. But the interns, they come in, I'm like, hey, you got 40 hours a week to do on Splunk. Here's my wish list. Let's make it happen. So what we learned, though, is that early on, I was like, all right, here's the data. Here's what we're doing. Here's kind of what I want you to do. And they would be like, all right, cool, I got this. But that's like 2 to 3 weeks of me like telling them the business. And that kind of sucks when you're like, all right, you come in, here's a bunch of my time or somebody on my team's time, and now go take this and do something with the data. We got stuff out of it. It was okay. It was valuable. But it wasn't valuable. So what I learned, though, is that if you're able to use them for like, hey, we want to do this integration or this technology addition or something that's like not data related, they can get so much more out of it so much quicker. And so what we do now is we send them first, day one, Splunk fundamentals. Go in there, get it, download it on your local machine, learn what you're doing, and get something out of it. And then I'm like, all right, cool. You know something about it? Like, yeah, cool. And then I'm like, hey, go in, and here's my wish list. Do this. And they're like, okay, whatever, because they're interns. They don't know any better. They don't know it's hard. Like, whatever. I'm like, this is fantastic. Do it. And they do. It's fantastic. But part of that, too, is teaching them, hey, you're an intern. You're coming in. You don't know what's going on. And the other part about interns is, like, especially with the data issues, if you do, like, a data-related project, they come to you like, hey, I have a question about this data. I'm like, oh, I'm working this issue, but okay, fine, hold on, give me 20 minutes. And so they pull you away from actual business value. But I'm like, hey, check it out. There's Splunk Answers. There's the Slack channel. And then I'm like, hey, go to our internal wiki. All right, then learn how to Google, and then come to me. So by teaching them all these resources that are out there, like Answers and the Slack, like those are amazing. And so I'm like, if you went there and you didn't get an answer and you're coming to me, I'm not gonna have the answer because like you guys are way smarter than I am, and it'll happen about 6 weeks into the internship. They're like, hey, I have this like SPL question. I'm like, you're asking me? Like, I get about 40 hours of Splunk every 6 months. You get 40 hours a week, so you are ahead of where I am right now. So all I'm going to tell you is how to Google, and that is what happened. So it is one of those kind of cool things that happen. So with our first internship, we got, or that's probably our third actually. So once we finally got it figured out, do the Splunk fundamentals, here's how you get your help. We got a guy. I was like, hey, right now we have a legacy system that can do this monitoring and this graphical stuff for the users. And I was like, now do those 90 dashboards in Splunk. And he's like, okay, whatever. Didn't know anything about databases, SQL, whatever. And he did it, and it was fantastic. So it was just kind of like literally like forklift from there to here, perfect. And like I said, he didn't know anything about queries. And this is just about the talent today. The guys coming out of college today. I was like, hey man, do you know anything about SQL? He's like, no, I don't know anything about it. I'm like, cool. Well, we have these dashboards with these. I think it was about 300 lines of SQL that was creating that dashboard we just saw. And I was like, hey, go take that and put it in Splunk. And there were some issues. It wasn't just like a cut and paste, so he had to do something. But he learned a lot. But he did it. Like, it was like, hey, I was like, this is going to take me like a long time because I'm going to get interrupted with work and other stuff. So, but you're an intern, 40 hours, knocked it out. And he did. It was amazing because that's what this query essentially turned into. And it was fantastic. So another internship project we did was chat ops. Anybody use Slack, HipChat, whatever? Right. So amazing stuff. I'm still trying to get it in. I was doing a POC though. I was like, hey guys, let's do a chat ops, a Slack, and see what we can do. And one thing we saw was like Luna. Anybody familiar with Luna? I'm gonna do the video real quick just because it is pretty amazing. Cannot. Oh yeah, I don't. Anyway, so I'll just say this. What Luna is you're like, hey, Slack at Luna, run this search. It runs the search, brings the dashboard back to your Slack channel. So now everybody in the incident is aware of what matters. And so I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. And so I was like, guys, we're going to do this. It's going to be fantastic. And what probably would have ended up for the interns was that they were going to come in and be like, all right, so here's the searches that matter, some saved searches that for these alerts and blah, blah, blah. And then our security guy was like, whoa, bro, that's a third party. We don't like that. Like, we're not going to do that. I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, all right, interns, you saw the video, which you guys didn't see, but go to go there. But at that video, it shows you what it can do. It's fantastic. I was like, guys, we're going to pivot because that's what you do. You pivot, And I was like, develop this, like write it yourself. And they did. And it was fantastic. So now we've got our internal Splunk bot. So we had 2 interns. One guy did the API from Slack, one guy did the API to Splunk, but it was fantastic. They literally rewrote this thing that Function 1 had developed, and I was like, you guys are killing it, and like, there's no way I could have done this, because like, again, the interns are way smarter than I am. So it's just a kind of a fantastic way where you're like, hey, do this, and they don't know they can fail. Like, you're like, okay, I have to do this, and they do it. You're like, you put the carrot out there, and they kill it. So, like, here's kind of some of the things that they came up with. So, FYI, like, these are not actual real names. Like, those are just totally fake. I only say that because of the Austin user group. They're like, your security guy let you say that? I'm like, no. But anyway, like that's not me, obviously. I look completely different. But again, just completely staged data. But they were able to do this like in 4 weeks because then our enterprise architecture team was like, whoa, it's not FedRAMP. Cut that off. So we lost Slack. And then they did it in HipChat. I was like, hey guys, we have HipChat locally, do it there. And so they did it there. So all I'm saying is interns, and that's the GitHub for that if you guys care about it. But what I'm saying is, if you provide your interns, hey, here's kind of the basic level 1 fundamental training, here's how you get your answers, and then you give them like a task, they can kill it for you. I mean, I get more done in that 3 months where I have an intern than I do the other 9 months. So, anybody have any questions? Where do you usually get your interns? So, I've had it last time. I had a mechanical engineer, whatever, from BYU. I had a comp sci guy from UT Dallas. In the past, I've had I think some guys from Texas A&M, but I mean, wherever the HR guys send us, some people. So
mainly colleges, though.
Yeah, mainly colleges. Yeah, but I'll take an intern from anywhere, like whatever. If you're smarter than I am and you have the willingness to give a damn and the desire to learn, let her rip. So cool. Thank you.